How's everybody doing today? All right, we got Kevin Shores here from the Cannabis Resolution, nonprofit organization. Everybody give him a little bit.
Bonjour, Anin, Nese Wewidang Indigo Ojibwem, Gawa Babigani Kag and Dunjiba, Moorhead, Nungumende, Makwa Nindumdem. My name is Kevin Shores. I'm the founder of the Cannabis Resolution. Thank you. I created this with the great and needed help of my lovely wife, who supported me with this. It all started back in 2000 when I moved up to Moorhead from Minneapolis, and I was always a strong proponent of NORML. God bless them, or Amin Ra bless them, or whoever you believe in. And I used to get involved with NORML and do all the activist stuff and the marches and the protesting and this and that and whatnot. Moved up to Moorhead, Minnesota, and we started our very own first time ever Moorhead College NORML meeting. And the old president's right here today too. I won't point him out because he got a really good job now. But we started NORML and we were getting involved up there in Moorhead and stuff, and it was so questionable about every time that we mentioned NORML, and they're like, what's NORML? And does anybody know what NORML stands for? Let's hear it. What is it? National Organization for the Reformation of Marijuana Laws, which in itself is very simplistic of what it's about. But then every time we started talking about marijuana, everybody started freaking out. Marijuana, no, no, no. And of course there's some of us that were like, yes, yes, yes. And so we started educating people about it, and it was a hard time to stop people with their paradigm of marijuana. And I was always a strong supporter of the cannabis plant. I was a smoker for over 24 years, an avid smoker, and out in the open smoker. Even got arrested because of it. And I have no problem admitting that, because if you look at my situation, due to health reasons, smoking the cannabis plant is just no questions whatsoever. Well, I started looking into it earlier into my smoking. I'm like, well, what is NORML? And I looked into it and I started researching the cannabis plant and was blown away. Does everybody know about the cannabis plant? The cannabis plant is hemp, is marijuana. But this lovely institution kept separating the issue, and so they kept us dumbed down. And so they were able to create the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. And then all of a sudden, there was no more industrial cannabis grown, which was called hemp. And then they were blaming the Mexicans for marijuana. They were saying it was an evil devil's weed, and it gave the minorities the strength to look white men in the eye and venture on with white women, and the white women would go to the jazz clubs and hook up with interracial couples, and those prominent white men were like, no, none of that. Also, there was a guy named William Randolph Hearst.
Okay.
No, that's a boo. That's a boo. Okay, let's try that again. A guy named William Randolph Hearst, thank you, who owned a lot of paper companies, had ties with the DuPont and a lot of synthetic companies and oil. And all of a sudden, also in that same period, a gentleman made a machine called the decorticator. No, that's a yay. The decorticator, okay. He invented a machine called the decorticator. Okay, maybe I'll just nod on the yays and shake my head on the nays. So he created this decorticator, which was able to quicken the process of thrashing the cannabis plant. so you were able to use it for industrial means. And it was blowing away the cotton gin. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but the oldest known written use was over 5,000 years ago by a Chinese herbalist who prescribed it for multiple symptoms of headaches, nauseated, childbearing, women with pregnancy, for nausea, just multiple uses of the cannabis plant. Of course, they suppressed this kind of information. When our founding fathers came here and destroyed this country, and I say that from the Native American aspect, but when they came here, it was their duty to grow the industrial cannabis. George Washington do it. Some people say that the infamous cherry tree of George's dad that he cut down, cherry being at the end of a cannabis cigarette, that the cherry tree he cut down was his dad's cannabis plant. And that's why he got in so much trouble for cutting down that tree. But it's kind of hard to do that since we weren't there to really substantiate that evidence. But then it was actually legal tender, where you could grow cannabis fields, industrial cannabis fields, and you could pay your taxes with it. Well, William Randolph Hearst saw a really threat, jumping ahead. William Randolph Hearst saw such a threat from the cannabis plant that he started a smear campaign with all of his media logos that he had. So he started smearing the cannabis plant and started doing all of these reports about evil marijuana. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, the devil's weed, and they started doing propaganda and reefer madness and huge smear campaign. And then pretty soon they were like, oh, we got to get rid of that. So they started the Marijuana Tax Act with a guy named Slinger. There's a great book by Jack Hare. Yay, out of the head, Jack Hare. It's called the blank.
The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Thank you. But Jack Hare came out with a great book that has all this stuff in it also. And Slinger was the very first DEA. Boo. And so since Prohibition wasn't working, they needed all of those Prohibition officers a job. So they created the DEA and they started going after that evil weed, marijuana. And so then all of a sudden the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 was passed, and then the farmers that season came in to get their hemp plant farming tax thing renewed. And then all of a sudden the government said, you can't grow that, that's marijuana. And the hemp farmers said, what? I've been growing this for centuries. Well, a couple centuries at that time. And so then all of a sudden the industrial cannabis hemp growing business plummeted, which was really sad for us. And so then this is how marijuana became illegal. And so after learning all of this stuff, to me I just realized that it was just absolute stupidity that this plant, cannabis, is illegal. Over 60,000 byproducts can be made from this plant. You name it. Anything you see around us that is made from plastics can be made from the cellulose of this plant. So that means the oil companies, that means we wouldn't have to be going to war for oil control, that we could grow it here. Out of all of the 19 industrial nations around the world, America, this great land, is the only land that will not grow industrial cannabis. Over 30 tons of industrial cannabis is imported to America every year. And this is allowing other farmers and their farms to plummet. All of these little mom and pops farms that are getting foreclosed on, if they would allow them to grow industrial cannabis, then it would help them. I've also read reports that in the state of Minnesota, for those of you who have heard of crop rotation, in one summer, if they would take all of those crops that are in crop rotation and grow industrial cannabis, it would take Minnesota out of the deficit in one summer because of all the byproducts that could be made. This whole thing they're touting is ethanol and methanol with corn and soybean.
Okay.
What's more superior? The cannabis plant. The cannabis plant can be grown for gasoline. It burns cleaner. Not only that, when they grow ethanol with the corn and soybean, they need to use petro-fertilizers, petro-nutrients in order to grow the fields. Cannabis, you put it in the ground, you let Mother Earth love it, you let Father Sky shine on it, you got a plant. That's it. It's that simple. It just grows. And you don't need very little pesticides. Very little pesticides. Not only that, but as the plant grows, since it's a shading plant or a mother plant, I learned from David Wolf that people that used to garden, in the center of their garden, they would grow a cannabis plant because it was a mother plant. And all you had to do is watch that plant, and it would dictate whether you needed to water your other plants. Because if it started drooping, that means the soil was too dry. And under certain conditions, it would tell you how to treat your other garden plants. So it was a nurturing plant. There's also allegations that some people say that this plant is extraterrestrial. Cannabis coming from the canine. Has anybody heard of the two-dog star? Cana Major, Cannabis, Cani Minor, up in the sky constellations. Some people claim that this plant was extraterrestrial and brought here to the earth. So this plant has incredible and wonderful properties to it. And then we'll even talk a little bit about the medicinal. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get rid of the word hemp and trying to get rid of the word marijuana. Marijuana is a negative racist word. It's a denotation on the Mexican people. It's a cannabis. It's either cannabis sativa, cannabis indica. The major difference is the elevation that it's grown, and the fact that sativa will make you a little more sleepier and the indica will make you a little bit more awake. There's actually a rhythm to the whole smoking and ingesting. And smoking cannabis, I hate to say it, is harmful to you because you're igniting it. It needs to be 120 degrees in order for it to burn. And so you do get carcinogens ingested as you smoke it. The best and only way that you should be doing it is eating it. And if any of you have eaten it, you really know why you should eat it. Because it's a total spiritual, euphoric, metaphysical experience. So if you must, if you could, eat it. Just eat it. If you
don't even have to cook it.
Preferably out of a vaporizer. You can also make teas too, I'm sorry. Teas are really good also. But if you must smoke it, a vaporizer is very good. Or even a water bong, because that will at least decrease the temperature of the smoke you're ingesting. And the DEA sucks. But on a side note, as a person is wasting away with AIDS or cancer or any other debilitating disease or sickness, it is just inhumane to deny them from ingesting cannabis. Inhumane. I cannot think of anything more inhumane to do to a person than to give them these pharmaceutical, which has a big reason of why this plant is not legal, because of all the medicinal properties, multiple medicinal properties of the cannabis plant for medications and whatnot. That its earliest known uses were the medicinal. But to let people dying and stuff not to do it is just, I can't think of the words to describe it. It's just wrong. So if you guys know that Minnesota is going to be passing, or hopefully passing, the compassionate use medicinal marijuana. So talk to your legislations. We've had plenty enough bad times with Palenti in Minnesota, and he said he's going to veto it. So write your congressman, Palenti, that's a boo. But Infinity, my daughter, can you come up here? Infinity? Can you say cannabis? She said join the cannabis resolution. Infinity's going to come around with brochures and hand them out for some of the people. We have a booth here. Come check it out. We have a booth down here. And also to let you guys know that what we're doing this weekend, because it's Project Earth, everything that we sell for our cause, I am personally, out of my personal bank account, matching it and giving it to the Wookie charities. So please support us and please support the Wookie charities, because I am dollar for dollar matching for the Wookie charities. So please come and support both of us at the same time. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I hope all of you guys come and check out the booth. DEA bad, cannabis good. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. Hug somebody.